So that then we can start. So welcome everybody. Welcome to this week's Optron Geospatial Technologies webinar. So this week we'll be covering a topic that's quite interesting to me as well. It is campaign monitoring, or what we call semi-automated monitoring, using Trimble access monitoring and Trimble 4D control access. So these monitoring solutions are perfect for small-scale monitoring projects or short-term monitoring, like construction sites or small mines or quarries. Just some housekeeping: the webinar will be recorded, and afterwards we'll post it on the Optron website and the Optron YouTube channel. And then if I may just ask that everybody just mute their microphones and switch off the cameras to save some bandwidth during the duration of the webinar. At the end of the webinar, we will leave some time for questions, but you're also welcome to post some questions in the chat window, which we will either answer at the end or I will answer them as you post them. So today's presenters are myself, Kobus Botha from Optron, and then I would also like to welcome Christian Breuer from Trimble Geospatial. Just to give you some background on Christian, his background is a surveyor. He's got a master's degree in surveying with the focus on mine and construction surveying. He started with Trimble in 2002, and he is the one guy in Trimble with the longest history in monitoring. He actually was involved in Trimble monitoring even earlier than the version 1 T4D, and even before Trimble Access was released. And he's also the one person in Trimble who taught me most about what I know about monitoring. And currently, Christian holds the position of technical sales engineer for the Trimble monitoring projects in the EMEA region. So with that, Christian, I will hand over to you.
Perfect.
And you can continue.
All right. So for the purpose, thanks a lot, Kobus, so far for introducing me. So I will now share my screen. So maybe you can turn yours off.
Yeah.
Hold on. Share. So could you please confirm that you see my presentation right now?
I can see it, yes.
Great. Yeah, again, thanks for introducing. Kobus and I will go through this webinar today. Basically, I will speaking, but I hope that Kobus will speak up if required, if he believes that I'm something missing out, which is maybe of special interest for some of the participants today. Let's have a quick look at the agenda. So the introduction part we have already covered. Yeah. The next thing we do, we will have a look at possible applications and workflows connected to these. Afterwards, I will introduce you to the Trimble Access Monitoring application, followed by the Trimble 4D Control Access Edition. Yeah. And if time allows, I will also give you an outlook how you can turn a manual monitoring application into an automated one easily. All right. Applications and workflows. If you look at the pictures here, that pretty much describes the primary applications for manual monitoring, manual or campaign-based monitoring. Yeah. So should mean if you look, for example, at the picture at the top left here, typical deep excavation in an urban area. Yeah. You see the sheet piles that have been covered with concrete here to stabilize the excavation pit. Yeah. And the typical application there is to monitor these sheet piles during the time of the excavation. This does not necessarily need to be automated. This can be done manual or by campaigns. Yeah? So you can imagine to go there, set up your instrument and monitor several points at the sheet piles and maybe the buildings around during the time of working. Or for example, even a smaller one on the right, top right side. Yeah. So this is something that typically happens in every little town. Yeah. So there is an old building that has been teared down. Yeah. And now there is new construction going on in this gap that came up. Yeah. But you still want to see whether your construction has any impact on the buildings around. So you maybe go there once a day or once a week, yeah, and do your deformation observations on the buildings adjacent to the construction going on. Another typical example is on the bottom left side. Yeah. So there are a lot of open pit mines in your area and also in other areas that I have visited. Yeah, and the most profitable way of let's say laying out or planning a deep an open pit mine is to have the mine walls as steep as possible, yeah, so that you do not so that you reduce or minimize the amount of waste that you have to carry away. But on the other hand side, this way of planning also has the risk that these mines become unstable. Yeah? So what you typically do, yeah, you set up a monitoring system, and depending on the size and depending on the ground, yeah, you will do your monitoring observations maybe once a day, maybe once a week. Yeah? And another one on the bottom right side is, of course, hydro dams. Yeah, hydro dams need to be monitored. Yeah, do monitored in real time with geodetic instruments? Not necessarily, but at least you will go there, for example, at least twice a year. Yeah, when the water level is high and when the water level is low, or maybe after heavy rain, or whenever there was a very quick rise in the water level. Yeah, so these are typical applications where you can take your total station, yeah, and do some measurements on these objects. Yeah. Okay. Corbus, can you think of any other typical applications that specifically apply to your customers?
No, I think you pretty much covered them all. It's mostly going to be mining, dams, and construction.
Okay. Okay, then have a look at the typical workflow on such a site. Yeah. So usually you drive to the site and set up the instrument. That's fine. Yeah, that's something you need to do. Yeah. Then you observe all the targets that are placed at the object. Yeah. Afterwards, you drive back to the office. Yeah. You probably then export the data to an Excel sheet, because an Excel sheet still is one of the most common ways to actually present monitoring data, especially positioning data or displacement data. Yeah, and then if you want to give this a little bit more value, you maybe create some graphs within Excel. This can be done easily. Yeah, it is manual work, or if you have set up a template, it's maybe a little bit easier. Yeah, but then you have basically created the deliverable, yeah, that you would provide to the end customer. Yeah, so the results are typically still today provided in an Excel sheet. Yeah? If we now have a look how we can improve this by using, for example, Trimble Access, yeah, and the Trimble Access monitoring app. Yeah, so still, of course, you would need to drive to site and set up the instrument, of course. Yeah, the second step is already much easier, because Trimble Access has all the functionality to allow the instrument to observe all targets automatically. Yeah? You simply set it up, and then you press the functionality or you activate the functionality, and then the instrument will observe all targets according to the schedule you want it. Yeah? Afterwards, you create the report. You do not drive back to the office. You don't need to drive back to the office because Trimble Access Monitoring also includes a lot of export functionalities, so that it allows you to create the report directly in the field, yeah, and you can directly provide the results in different formats, to your customer. And this, of course, saves a lot of work that you have to do in the office and saves a lot of time for you, yeah? So that you right after that can go to the pub immediately. Yeah, so no, of course, no, you don't go to the pub. Yeah?
Why not?
No. You use the time properly, yeah, and just go to another job site and take over another job. Yeah, so that we so I just want to point out that this workflow is really saving a lot of time and effort, yeah, on site. Some of you probably are using a Trimble Office software, which is called Trimble Business Center. Yeah, so there is a way to connect both workflows. Yeah, so again, when you're using Trimble Business Center, yeah, you would go to site, set up the instrument. You would set up the instrument to observe all targets automatically, and then you will not create a report on site. You will sync the data with the office. Yeah. And in the office, there will probably be sitting a colleague of you, maybe a youngster who's just getting started with all the monitoring, and surveying stuff. Yeah. So the colleague in the office will manage the data by using TBC. Yeah. And that guy also then easily can create reports using TBC, yeah, and that colleague will also be able to provide the results to the end user. Yeah, you see, by using Trimble Access Monitoring and Trimble Business Center, yeah, you can go to the pub even earlier, right? Because just after syncing, you are done. Yeah, so all the work will be done by the youngster in the office. Yeah? However, this is just one comment from my side, that there is also a module or functionality set available for Trimble Business Center to manage your monitoring data. Yeah? However, we will not cover the details of this workflow today. This can be done in a different session for those of you who are interested in that workflow. All right, we want to look how the workflow is going to be by using the Trimble Access Monitoring app and Trimble 4D Control. So just briefly again, we will go to the site, yeah, and set up the instrument. Yes, the instrument will observe all the targets automatically, and yes, the data can be easily synced with the office again. But now there is a difference. The difference now is that T4D will manage the data. Yeah? T4D will automatically create the report, and also T4D will automatically provide the results to the end customer. So when you look at this workflow now, you save even more time, and you save the colleague in the office, because you now can take the youngster and have him carry all the stuff for you on site and set up the instrument. You just need to stand next to him and take care of what he is doing. Yeah? And once the data has been synced with the office, you both can go to the pub immediately. So you have a good company in the pub, maybe, right? So this was just briefly the differences in the workflows. Let us have a look at the Trimble monitoring app a little bit closer. Yeah. So as you probably know, I mean, you are joining an Optron webinar, so I assume that most of you are familiar with Trimble Access, especially the Trimble Access General Survey, which includes all functionalities for most of the survey jobs we do today. However, you probably also know that there are additional modules, apps available for Trimble Access, yeah, such as special applications for road construction, tunnel construction, a mine survey, and so on. And one is also a special application for monitoring jobs. That's this one. Yeah. So why should we use this monitoring module? Yeah, because it supports the workflows that I just described in the previous slides. Yeah, so it has dedicated, streamlined workflows to conduct such campaign monitoring jobs very easily and efficiently. It supports almost every Trimble total station, meaning you also could use just a servo instrument or maybe Cobus maybe even a mechanical one. I'm not so sure about that. That you know it better, yeah. Depending on the controller.
With Trimble Access, yes, you can even use. I've used it in the past as the Trimble M3 before. The mechanical total station. So yes, you can.
Yeah.
Although the workflow is so much easier using a
absolutely
auto-lock total station.
Yes. So and that's why I mentioned it here. It's perfect for all the auto-lock instruments that Trimble offers. Yeah, and for those who want to do a little bit more in the future, maybe it also supports scanning for monitoring applications with the Trimble SX instruments. Yeah. Okay. Basically, the first thing when you go on site, yeah, is you start the Trimble Access monitoring application and you do your standard total station setup. Yeah, this can be a standard station setup, a station setup plus, or a resection. Doesn't matter. Yeah? Once you have done so, yeah, you select the points that you want to observe during this campaign monitoring. Yeah, this can be prisms, but this also can be direct reflex measurements. Yeah, and as I said, this can also be covered in a future session. Yeah, by using dedicated scan areas that you subsequently observe during your visits on site. Yeah. One thing that you might wanna look at here is that it is also important for monitoring that you are able to separate the prisms on site. Yeah. And I specifically mentioned this because on the monitoring side, especially when there is a road or a rail, or also just on a standard construction site, it can happen that the monitoring prisms are pretty close to each other. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you use the appropriate lock mode. Yeah, and for the purpose, when using the standard S series instruments, we of course recommend to use the fine lock mode. Yeah, so all Trimble S7 instruments are equipped with fine lock, and also the Trimble S9 instruments are equipped with fine lock. Yeah. The S9 units can also be optionally equipped with the so-called long-range fine lock sensor, which is especially very handy when you're doing long distance measurements in open pit mines, for example. So when you look at the screen here, this can be selected for every target individually. You can, of course, use different prisms at the different targets and different lock modes also. Once you have selected the prisms, the instrument will automatically measure all these prisms. Yeah, and once one set of measurements has been finished, yeah, you will see an overview of the epochs that you have measured. Yeah, sometimes it's okay if you do just one measurement per day, so then you will just maybe do one epoch a day. Yeah, but if you set up the instrument to monitor a construction site during the whole day because of working going on at the site, then you will probably set up the instrument to do multiple rounds. Yeah, for example, every 15 minutes or so. Yeah, and then you will see, of course, all the epochs and how long it took and when they were measured. You do not only see the epochs, of course, yeah, but you will also see immediately displacements to the reference measurement on screen. Yeah, and you can also set up the system to pop up warnings. Yeah, because you can also set thresholds directly here in the field software. Yeah. Okay. Once you have finished your daily or weekly whatever observations, yeah, in the field directly you can create multiple reports, including such Word documents, which then can also include not only the values of the displacement but also graphs. Yeah, you can see here scatter plots, yeah, for horizontal movement, or individual graphs for northing, easting, and elevation displacements. Okay, we are talking about Trimble Access, and we are talking about Trimble Access and Trimble 4D Control Access Edition. Yeah. So once you have done the job, you can also export the data right into the Trimble 4D Control format. Yeah. So just click on the data exchange button, yeah, click on T4D, and then select export rounds. Yeah. And then you would be able to take the data and process the files manually in T4D, or sync the files automatically to a folder so that T4D can grab it and process it automatically. Okay, before we look at the workflow, because I want to demonstrate it to you by using the software on my PC, let's have a quick overview of what Trimble 4D Control Access Edition really provides. Yeah, I don't know who of you has heard about Trimble 4D Control already. This is the Trimble monitoring software, and it comes in different editions. And so there is the so-called Access Edition. Yeah, this is a dedicated version that allows you to process the data that you have collected with the Trimble Access monitoring application. But there are also other editions. Yeah? For example, the Field Edition, which is a very basic edition that allows you to control an instrument, for example, in real time. Yeah, but without the possibility to process the data. Yeah, it just will provide you with coordinates of total station measurements. Yeah, this is used for people who need to do monitoring but want to provide the data to their clients, just for example in coordinate files, because the client has another piece of software that he wants to use to visualize the data collected by T4D. T4D intermediate, as it says, as an intermediate version, it can do all the data processing and can show you some basic analysis. T4D geotechnical is a pure version for those of you who have a site which doesn't require geodetic monitoring. Yeah, so it can just take the data of geotechnical sensors like tilt sensors, piezometers, crack meters, and so on. And advanced, as you can imagine, is a thing that can do everything, from geotechnical monitoring to total station monitoring with a full-blown set of analysis tools. All right. The main components of any T4D, Trimble 4D Control installation, basically, the software consists of three main components. One is the so-called server component, Trimble 4D Control Server. Yeah, this is basically doing all the calculations and it comes with a desktop application that allows you to do the configuration. The configuration usually is done only once, and once the configuration has been set up properly, all the data is coming into the software automatically. And then you use the second component, which is Trimble 4D Control Web, which gives you all the tools for data analysis, visualization, map views, charting, and so on. And of course, automated alarming and reporting. And as you can imagine, it stores the data in databases. So these components will be installed when installing T4D and the T4D Access Edition. Let's have a quick look at the Trimble 4D Control Server. Okay, sorry, one more slide, just to highlight that Trimble 4D Control is basically running on any PC, while of course Trimble Access is running on your field controller. So that is the data flow that we would use when working with Trimble 4D Control Access, collecting the data and then syncing data to your Office PC. All right, now T4D Server. T4D Server is using processing modules, and for the use with Trimble 4D with Trimble Access Monitoring, we just need a very few modules, actually just 3. As you can see on the left side here, can you see my mouse cursor? I don't know. Is it visible?
Yeah.
So basically, there is
yes,
one service, which is basically making sure that all the data is being stored properly in the databases. This little module is being added automatically, and you don't need to take care about it. Then there is one thing which is called the terrestrial engine PP. PP stands for post-processing, because the data has already been collected, by the Trimble Access Monitoring app, and T4D, Trimble 4D Control, will reprocess the data. So it will recalculate the total station setup, and then the data goes in the so-called integrity monitor module, which is then calculating the displacements in this case. I always said that the data can be synced with your Office PC, and in that case, the terrestrial engine module, would be set up in a way that it automatically would scan the folder, the sync folder, so that whenever there is a new file coming into this sync folder, T4D would automatically process the data. If you don't want to do this, if you want to carry the file on a USB drive, to your PC, then you can also process the data manually, meaning you would navigate to the folder on the USB drive, for example, and then you would initiate processing of that file manually. All right, this is the only thing you need to do basically in the server component. Everything else now, the whole data analysis, will be done in the web component. And if you start the web UI, by using your browser, this is what you will see. This is the so-called landing page, and it gives you an idea of what's going on. Different colors available. There are different sensors.
Sorry, Christian, we've lost you a bit there for the last sort of half a sentence.
When? Before
no, just one sentence ago.
Okay. So can you hear me well again?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is this is the landing page, which will open up when you log on to the T4D web component by using your internet browser. And the landing page already indicates whether there is anything going on in your monitoring installation. Yeah. In this case here, you can see there are some red colors and some green colors indicating that there is something okay with the sensors in the system and something is not so great. But we will look at it in a minute. I just want to highlight that, of course, we have all the tools here to do the sensor management. Yeah, we can also enter data manually. Yeah, so I was talking about that we process the files automatically. Yeah, but if you have other sensors on site, or if you do manual measurements, for example, you take a caliper and measure the width of a crack, yeah, and you write it down on a piece of paper, yeah, you can do this week by week, and you can enter the measured values here and introduce a so-called manual sensor and enter the data manually. You know. And sensor grouping, of course, can also be created when you do not want to, for example, monitor one specific target, yeah, but maybe a group of targets. Yeah, if you want to monitor the average movement of a group of targets and so on. Terrain view offers, of course, the standard map views. Yeah, the standard one is OpenStreetMaps, but you can also add the other ones like Google Maps or Bing Maps, or you can upload your own DXF files or other georeferenced images. You can even set up your own web map server. Yeah. Custom views I will show you also in a minute. And then there is the charting and analysis section. So you can have individual charts and scatter plots for each sensor. You can set up your own analysis by using graphs and bar charts and so on. Composite views, they allow you to take the different charts and analysis and compose a view of multiple analysis tools that you can then share with your clients, and you can even set some up to be outside of the well, I would say without you can make them available without the need of logging into the software, into the platform. Yeah, because you can imagine that when you want to enter T4D web, you need to have your username and password. Yeah. Visual inspection tools come into the game when you are using Trimble S6 total stations, and vibration events are available when you add a vibration sensor, for example, accelerometers or and so on, or geophones. In the monitoring section, yeah, you see that you can set up all different kinds of alarming. Yeah, automated event logging is also part of the system. There is a system status page, yeah, that indicates all the data flow from the sensors and the current alarm status and so on. And of course, you can create all kinds of reports: analysis reports, alarm reports, weekly reports, daily reports, and so on. And these can be created right here on the website, but they can also be created automatically and sent by email to yourself or to your clients. The administration part, not to miss. Accounts. The web UI allows you to create basically the unlimited amount of accounts, yeah, with different access levels. Yeah, so if you are the administrator of the software and want to grant access to your client, of course you do not want the client to see everything or maybe mess around with the settings of your analysis tools and so on. Yeah, so you can limit the access individually, yeah, for each user. And project management, of course, is also part of the software. Here, just an example of the standard map view. Yeah, so what you can see here is that all the sensors with their location are visible on different kind of maps, and you can display different information for the sensors on the maps. Yeah? In this example here, you see the displacements for that specific sensor, which is called TR3 in this case. So this will pop up whenever you hover the mouse over the cursor icon. Yeah, you can also pin them to the sensor, and you can compare results directly here on that screen. You can display the displacement vectors. You can create heat maps here based on the alarm levels that you have set. Yeah, so it's very very flexible in use. Yeah, custom views. They allow you to basically upload any image that you have of your site. They don't need to be georeferenced or so. Yeah, you upload a photo that you just took on site. Yeah, and then you place the sensors manually on the image at the location which equals the actual location on site. Yeah. Was just one example of an analysis tool. Yeah, so you can combine all the sensors or many sensors in one single chart, or you can have individual charts for each sensor. This is really up to you and can be customized as required. Another example for an analysis tool is this bar chart type thing here, which makes sense especially when you're for example monitoring settlement. Yeah, you're interested in vertical movement. Yeah, you want to see just the vertical component maybe in the bar chart, and by by using these sliders here, yeah, you can go back in time and back and forth in time and see how the behavior was actually on site. For campaign monitoring, maybe not so realistic, but you can also, of course, add webcams and then use the sensor icons and place them on the live video, and to see their position and also see, of course, the values and so on. I mentioned reporting. Yeah, so reports can, of course, be created manually here in 4D control, but it's more interesting to create scheduled reports. Yeah, for example, this one here is scheduled to be created once a day. Yeah, and you select the time when it should be sent, and it contains then the data range that you have selected. Yeah. This is just one example of a specific graph that is part of the report. You can basically add any information of your system into the report. Yeah, so sensor data flow, alarm values being violated, and so on. Okay, that was the slides part so far. Right now, I wanna show you how we can use the system in real life. I will close this presentation down for a second, and I will start first the Trimble Access software. Yeah, and oops, it's going on. Yep, it's here. Yeah, can you see still the software?
It's coming. Yes,
it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
See it.
Yeah. So this is the standard Trimble Access view when you start it. Yeah, so you select the folder, yeah, where you have your related files, and you can see there are two files in my folder, Optron 1 and 2. Yeah, so this case I have been on site already. Yeah, and I have been measuring a couple of points on my construction site already. Yeah, so I will now open the project number 2. Yeah, and you immediately see there are not too many points I've measured because I want to show you the functionality of the software, and I don't want you to wait for the system to measure 100 points. Yeah, so this is basically right behind me. I have a total station set up. Yeah, that is called S6 station on that point, and I have one backside point and 2 monitoring points. Yeah, so that is the situation. Of course, in real life, there would be more points, as you can imagine. Yeah. So the first thing you need to do, the standard thing, yeah, you do the station setup. Yeah, you click on the bars, measure S6, and I select station setup, and I have a standard station setup right here. Connects to the instrument. Aha, instrument is leveled. Great. I accept it. It shows me the current pressure. Is the temperature still valid? No, it's not. It's 22.1. Okay, I accept this. Yeah. And I need to specify the instrument point name. Yeah, I will pick it from my list in this case. Yeah. The instrument height I measured just now, it's 1.55 meters. I accept this. The backside point, I can also pick it from here. Backside 1, that's the point. The backside height is 0 because I'm using a small monitoring prism for it. Yeah. And I measure. Oh, now it's searching for the prism. If I don't want this, I want to show you how to do this easily by using the S6 instrument. Yeah, I turn on the video. Yeah, and you see that's my little monitoring prism on the construction site. Yeah, so I simply turn the instrument there. Target has been locked. I go back and measure the prism. Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. Store. So station setup done. Okay, now I want to start my monitoring observations. I again press on the 3 lines, measure monitoring. Yeah, again, it will display the bubbles. Yep, it asks me whether the instrument height is correct. Yes, and here I see the targets. Yeah, that I have measured already before.
It's it's slightly lagging a bit behind, so maybe just keep that in mind when you go forward.
Okay. Yep. So here you can see the targets that I have observed during my last visit on site. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I always have to include the backside points because Trimble Access and also T4D will calculate a new station setup internally with every round, just to be sure that everything is safe and stable. Yeah, I'm fine with this. Yeah, I see. You can see that there is one prism, used as backside points, one monitoring point prism, and one DR shot. Yeah. Okay. I have now selected that the system just measures one epoch. Yeah. The options here allow you to change certain things like the phase order, observation order, and so on. Yeah, this is my preferred order. That's what I learned those days when I went to university and so on. That this is phase 1, phase, and afterwards phase 2. Yeah, and the order is 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, but in the end, this is up to you. You can change it. Important just is that for T4D to process the data collected with Trimble Access is that you do definitely both phases. Yeah, this is a requirement of T4D. Yeah, although the app would allow you to do phase 1 only, yeah, T4D would not accept it. Yeah. Okay. All right. I press next. Yeah. Again, the temperature thing pops up. You can turn this off. And the measurement epoch would start in 3.1 minutes. Why is this? Because I set an interval time of 5 minutes. Yeah. This only makes sense if you do multiple observations during your visit on site. Yeah, if you just wanna do one observation, you can simply press start now. Yeah, and you will see how the thing is progressing while the observations are being made. You can look at different things, the residuals of the backside, the list of points as they progress. So the backside point has been measured. Now phase one on the first monitoring point, then will come phase one on the second monitoring point. That's the next one that should come because I have selected that order. You can also see the deltas, right on screen here, to the reference measurement, and also any warnings if you would have set up thresholds. Okay, that was quick because there were just 3 targets, and I finished this. And now what I can do, I can export the data to be synced with T4D. So I press on the 3 lines again, and this time I select the data exchange option. Data exchange, I select T4D, export rounds, transfer complete. And that's all I need to do. In the background, I have set up T4D to scan the folder automatically every 5 minutes. I could accelerate this by going to the software and forcing it to scan now. I skip this point at the moment because I see that we have 10 minutes left, and I just want to show you how the data is being displayed in T4D. So that's why I open another browser window, and go to my T4D web installation. It asks me for username and password. It's coming in. And as I said, this is the view that you have when you look on the web UI. In the sensors section, you see the 3 sensors, the 2 sensors that we have observed, the 2 monitoring points. These you can see is a prism icon for it, because this is my monitoring point. The backside point, of course, I don't monitor. But what I did is I select, okay, this I said this is a control point, but I still want to see the raw data, when measuring to the backside point, because the backside point in the adjustment is fixed, so I will never see any movement for it, But if there is anything happen with that setup, I could see it by monitoring the raw data. And of course, the total station itself can also be used as a sensor because it still gives you the temperature and pressure. You can monitor these as well. When you click on one of the targets, you will see all the sensor information, like it's a target displacement, rotation angle is 0. It means you can rotate the displacement and have it displayed according to a other reference line, not relative to the actual coordinate system, because the coordinate system here is a UTM coordinate system that I use, which is valid for my zone here, 32 north. It shows you also the geographic coordinates and the latest observations, with the latest displacements here. Terrain view. I was mentioning the map. You can see the sensors on the map. This is my total station here, and it gives me pressure and temperature. This is the target. It gives me displacement. This is the other target. Also gives me displacement. And this one here is my reference point. It gives me the distance, the differences in the readings. All right. Terrain view, custom views. I mentioned webcam is not connected here. A custom view is, as I said, a very handy tool to use any backdrop images and place the sensors on it. I used the picture of the construction site in this case. and I placed the sensors on where they're supposed to be. Yeah, so my total station, for example, is sitting here. Yeah, and I see the values of the total station. My backside point is at the building in the background. Yeah, and my two monitoring points are over here. Yeah. So, and I can select what information is being displayed here, either the displacements directly, or maybe a graph of the movement over the last period of time. Charts, so individual charts can be created for every sensor. Yeah. You see that there was some displacement I triggered with moving the prisms. Scatter plot, you can imagine what this is. Analysis, I mentioned, I created a quick analysis for these targets. Yeah, so you can basically bring in any data that's in the system, yeah, and you can consolidate it in one graph. Yeah, what I did here, I simply did the 2D displacements of both targets and the vertical displacements. Yeah, and you can of course change the colors and so on. What you also see is interesting is mainly the alarm system. I also created an alarm for my sensors. Yeah, so and you can see the conditions that I added here. Yeah, so for 2D displacements and for vertical displacement, yeah, I introduced a threshold, yeah, and there are 3 threshold levels, yeah, attention, warning, and alarm. Yeah, so I set the attention to 5 millimeters, warning 10, and alarm to 20 millimeters. Yeah. So whenever we would trigger now, an alarm would be triggered, yeah, this alarm would cause an email sent to me. The first one immediately. The first one that will come in will tell you, well, there is an alarm, be careful, and it will be followed if you want to by a second one, which also contains then a graph of the history of that alarm.
Yeah,
all right.
The nice thing about the nice thing here as well is if your target goes over that certain threshold, the icon is also colored in the same color as what the alarm threshold is, and it's also moved to the top of the list. It's no longer alphabetical anymore, so you can more easily see where your problems are.
I mean, real-time alarming is not so critical for campaign monitoring, to be honest, but the whole analysis and visualization tools are absolutely great also for campaign monitoring. All right, let us finish the live demo here and have another look at one thing I want to mention. I was talking about the different editions of Trimble 4D Control, yeah, and what happens quite a few, or what happens frequently, I wanted to say, is that when you are on site, yeah, and when you suddenly detect that there is movement with your campaign monitoring, yeah, you wanna of course have more frequent observations, which require then maybe a change in the workflow. Yeah, meaning you want the system to observe all the points automatically. Yeah, and I just want to mention that this can be done easily by simply replacing the field controller by a little box. Yeah, and that little box is the so-called Setup M1 total station controller. That is a dedicated controller for monitoring. Yeah, so what you can do is all the information that you have on the controller, you can easily transfer to that device. Yeah, so there is another export functionality that exports all the prisms and the schedule to that device. Yeah, and then this thing will operate the total station automatically. Yeah, so also the setup on site is very easy. You just need one cable, yeah, from the controller here to the total station, and one power cord from mains into the controller. So the controller itself will power the instruments. You don't need any batteries in the instrument. Yeah, it has a lot of functionality like watchdog, all the communication you need. So you put a SIM card inside, yeah, and simply connect it to T4D, and it will automatically do the observations for you according to the schedule. If the communication breaks down, it buffers all the data, yeah, and T4D will take all the buffered data, reprocess every single epoch afterwards, and so ensures that there is no gap in data collection. Yeah, yeah. That was just one thing I wanted to mention, that the step from a single total station campaign monitoring to an automated single total station monitoring is very easy. Regarding the licenses, also interesting for short-term projects, we do not offer only a perpetual license, but also monthly and yearly licenses. And upgrades from one edition to the other, of course, possible. Sensor licenses are not required for campaign monitoring, only for real-time applications. And at this point, I would like to thank you for your participation, and I would like to open up the session for questions. Sorry. Hello.
Thanks, Christian. I think from my side, if you already touched on subscriptions, I also wanted to mention that. And then one thing, in Trimble Access, can you use only prisms or can you use reflectorless as well?
You could see it in my setup. Yeah, yes, you can use reflectorless measurements as well. You can also observe them automatically. Of course, then you can end up in the situation that you do not shoot the same point. Yeah, but if you want to talk, for example, the verticality of a beam or a sheet pile, this is still very handy.
Yeah, the way I always understand it is that it then just reports on the slope, basically on the slope distance all the time, because it points to the same vertical and horizontal direction every time.
Exactly. You saw that we were monitoring the 3D displacement of the targets, and I also mentioned that I was monitoring the raw data of the backside point. Yeah. Of course, you can also monitor the raw data of any other point. Yeah, and you can also then monitor simply the change in slope distance to any reflectorless point.
Great. From the floor, are there any other questions for Christian? I don't see anything in the chat window. No, if there's no further questions, then I would like to urge you guys just to go follow us on social media. We're on basically all the different social media platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and you can also find more information on our website, www.optron.com. And if you need any more information, you are welcome to contact me directly or contact me via the website. Christian, thank you very much for your participation today.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. It was good to see that there are so many people interested in monitoring. That's great. Yeah, Kobus, thanks for hosting. And talk soon again.
Okay, cool.
Kobus and Christian.
Yes. Who's speaking?
It's Russell.
Yeah.
If you can, just going back to the beginning of your presentation, on a lighter note, Christian, I know you mentioned that quicker in the field or faster in the field, faster to the pub.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my camera on, and I don't know if you'll see it, but maybe you can see this. This is a very old piece of Trimble marketing. It's for
I remember.
And there's the other side of it. So yes, on a lighter note, it's very nice to see that some of the principles have remained constant through the years.
Yeah. That's very consistent within Trimble, definitely.
Yes. Yeah, Christian, thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome. Great.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a good afternoon.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Cheers. Bye-bye.